All right. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Many Faces of Cancer podcast. I am your host, Melissa Grosboll, and joining me today is Gloria Davis. Gloria is a breast cancer survivor. She was diagnosed in 2015, and she's also a hairdresser. We're going to talk all about that, as well as the Crown and Glory Project, which she founded in 2019, that helps to give free haircuts and then provides other services for people before and after chemo treatments. So welcome to the show, Gloria.
Hello.
I'm so glad to get you on here. And I will say, for people who've been following the show, Gloria's interview was the other interview that did not work the first time around. So we are re-recording, but her story is so amazing that I had to make sure that we did this so we could tell your story.
Thanks.
All right. So kind of let's get started with 2015. Where were you? What was going on when you were first diagnosed?
I actually found my lump in February of 15, and I was out for my birthday, and I asked my friend, should I get this checked out? And she's like, yes. But I didn't have insurance at the time, so I didn't obviously go get it checked out until October. I was able to finally get on Medicaid and went and had it checked out. And so October started all of that. I was diagnosed 2 days before Thanksgiving. So
Ugh.
that was kind of a funky time because I like to host and all that good stuff. And so that definitely threw a wrench in it. So,
It does seem a
so
lot of times that people end up getting their diagnosis right before, after, right around holiday time, and I'm not quite sure what there is about that.
yeah, I mean, it's just, and it seems like it takes forever, for you to move to the next step. But it does actually go by pretty fast when you're in it, even though you think it's taking forever. But
Right. I
so,
think things
yeah,
kind of go in slow motion, going from one step to the next, because it's just so surreal that this is even happening. Especially
yeah,
you are young. Like, this is not, a postmenopausal breast cancer. So was it even on your radar that you were at risk?
no, I mean, I was 38 years old. So, my mom had it when she was 54 or so.
Okay. So you have a
And my aunt,
family history.
yeah, but there was no genetic component.
Okay.
That they found in mine at the time. And I know there's a lot of new stuff now, but uh, and the rule of thumb is to get your mammogram 10 years prior to, the person on your maternal side that had it. But that would have put me at 44 and the age was 40. So I was just missing it by, 2 years
Hmm.
um, to be able to, have that early mammogram, but it would have been early anyway. So um, I think that definitely needs to be changed for sure. I think the age needs to be younger.
Especially if there's, a history, even if it's not genetic. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you were diagnosed 2 days before Thanksgiving. Yay.
Yes, I was. And my very kind neighbor brought me Thanksgiving dinner,
Aw.
which God bless her, she probably won't hear this, but it was awful. But it was a thought that counted and
It
it
was
was
the
very
thought that
nice. And
counted,
I
yes.
was like, so yeah, it was definitely the thought that counts. So
So
yeah,
that
it was
just kind
stage
of
two.
totally messed up your holidays, I'm sure, because they wanted to get you in right away for things.
Yeah, yeah. So I that was right before Thanksgiving. I had really long hair, so I went immediately and kind of cut my hair, kind of to where it's at now. It's a little bit
Okay.
shorter than this. Um, and then, just kind of waited. I started all of the doctor's appointments and everything. And um, I did surgery first and then had chemo. So once all of that kind of got scheduled after all the biopsies and everything, kind of January was when everything like really started.
And then you You told the story last time, and I want you to tell the story again about deciding what you were going to have done as far as surgery.
So yeah, I was in my oncologist's office, and you go to the oncologist and you're expecting them to guide you. I mean, it's literally their job is to tell you like what to do. And I took a friend with me because there's just so much information, and I highly recommend, not doing it by yourself, but always taking. And my friend was in the medical field. So it was helpful to have that medical, even though she was in a different field, but um, and I took someone who worked for a plastic surgeon with me when I went and met with my plastic surgeon also, just to have that extra, set of ears or whatever. But yeah, we sat in the office and I flipped a coin, and my friend was like, why? Because my oncologist just was like, you can do a single, you can do a double, you can do a lumpectomy. He's like, whatever you want to do, it's up to you. And again, was looking for that guidance. So I flipped a coin in the office, and and my friend was like, I said 2 out of 3 because it came up lumpectomy first. And I said 2 out of 3. And she's like, why? And I was like, I don't know, just go with it. So the next one was mastectomy. And we're like, all right, we're 1 for 1. So that, third one comes and it said lumpectomy. And I was like, oh. And my friend goes, well, there's your answer. And so even though the coin didn't decide, it kind of did decide, because I think in my heart, I knew that that was what I needed to do, was to do the bilateral mastectomy, but it's hard to make that decision. Um,
Well, and I think
so
I always joke that when you flip a coin, you find out what you really want when the coin is in the air, because
right.
whatever you're hoping for it to land, that's what you truly want. So
Yeah,
I love that. Oh,
exactly.
2 out of 3, because that I like
Yeah.
that
I was
answer.
like, ooh. So yeah, flipped a coin. But had I mean, that was the best option for me too, because it was in my nipple. So um I did nipple sparing mastectomy and skin sparing mastectomy. So they had to take my nipple on my cancer side, because when they tested it during surgery, there was cancer in it. So had I opted for just a lumpectomy, they would have never known that.
Gotcha.
And so
So
then the
you
cancer would
you
have come
knew
back.
somewhere inside that that
Yeah,
was
I
what
mean, you
you
got
needed
to
to do,
trust your gut, right? I
right?
mean,
And our guts become, I think, very knowing during
yeah,
times like this, even if you don't
yeah,
always listen to it in regular times when there's something life or death. If your gut's telling you something, you maybe hear it a little bit more.
right, for sure. Yeah. So yeah, trust that gut and the coin, I guess. I don't know.
All right, so you had the mastectomy and then you also had to have chemo, because a lot of times if they do a full mastectomy, then you don't need the extra
Yeah. So
treatments.
I was triple positive. So I
Okay.
was HER2 positive also. And then so I had to do my 6 rounds of chemo, and I was every 3 weeks. Which it sucks, but I also kind of been thankful that it went that way, because there's like that 2 week recovery period in between chemos. And I think when you get Taxol and it's weekly, it just, I think it just starts to really, really wear you down, I think, faster, because there's just like emotionally and physically, because there's no recovery time for it. So,
Well, that was nice
um,
that you got that 2 week recovery time in between.
yeah, yeah. I mean, my hair has paid the price for it, because Taxotere is the worst for your hair, but you
Mm.
know, but it's also kind of made me the stylist that I am today also. But I'm still a I'm still a consumer. I actually got my hair done yesterday for the first time in like forever. I told my friend, I was like, I need an actual appointment. Like, please book me and I will pay you. I need to just get my hair done, because
It's
it had
like
been
the
so long.
cobbler's kids have no shoes kind of thing.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I was like, I need to get my hair done. Um,
So you had
so
chemo,
yeah,
and then did you also have radiation?
I did. Yeah. So I finished chemo the end of July. So our celebration was going to the I Love the 90s concert. That was our see, I've got a theme. Um that was our celebration. So we went again the next year too. It's just kind of our 1 year celebration. So finished chemo, and then I had about a month or so break before I started radiation. And in that time, I was able to go to cancer camp with Epic Experience. Um, and they almost were like, because my platelets were really low, I guess. Because when they check all of your, blood work and stuff to make sure you're good to like participate in all this stuff. And I was like, no, I'm fine. And they were like, no, if you fall out of the boat and crack your head open, like you might bleed out. I was like, so I mean, they were obviously looking out for my safety, but yeah, so I had that week, of camp during that time off, and then got back in radiation, which, you know, physically I was fine, but definitely burning. The good part is not having feeling in your armpit when the skin is sloughing off. You don't feel it, so you're like, all right, I guess it's not so bad.
Silver linings.
Right? Yeah, exactly. So
So take
yeah,
us back a
so
little bit first, like talk a little bit about Epic Experience. So that's something that is in Colorado, I believe, but
yes,
talk a little bit about what that is and, if people are interested, what they can do to
they
be a part of it.
have yeah, I've done all of the all of the camps.
Because I
They call
applied
me.
this year and I was not accepted. So
Oh
I'm
yeah,
gonna
you
apply.
gotta
I'm
keep,
gonna apply
well,
again.
I gotta talk to Nancy. Nancy actually has been she's had some surgery. She's had some stuff going on lately. So I'll throw a word in for you.
Okay, get an inside here.
um so yeah, so Epic Experience is a week long like adult cancer camp. You could have had cancer at any age, but you have to be over 18 to go to camp. And I went during the summer, and it was whitewater kayaking. Um, we went horseback riding, fishing, like just all kinds of just fun outdoor, stuff. And what's cool about it is it's kumbaya without it being kumbaya, and you find people and you realize that you're not the only person that, like I lost friends when I was diagnosed, which I thought was just crazy. But when you go to camp and you find out that, you're not the only person that, goes through those things. And so it's just nice. And my camp was all breast cancer except for one girl. And
But
they
it
were
is
all
for any
local.
cancer, not just breast
Yeah. The
cancer.
one that I just happened, they had a cancellation, and because I live local, I was able to get in, um, you know, on a whim. And but yeah, they bring people in from all over the country. I've driven um, up for camps, for camps. I'll, go and pick up the campers at the airport and stuff. And um what I had one of the girls, one of the girls that was on one of the trips I did. She's from Florida, and they're going rafting and they're going kayaking in the river. And this girl was like dead serious too. And she's like, do y'all got gators and stuff like that in your river? I was like, no, we got trout, like got
The gators are a
rainbows,
thing in
got
Florida. I grew up in
cutthroat. I
Florida. I
know, but it
get
was
it.
just so funny. She was just like really serious, asking if we had like gators and such in our rivers. And I was like, no, the water's like 33 degrees. So no, there's none of that. Um, and another question I thought was I mean, it's just you become blind to it. Um, when you get up, there's still a little bit of snow on up at the top of the mountains. And, they were like, what's that white stuff up there? And I'm like, snow? Like
Well, I
you
mean,
don't
it's the
even think.
summertime, so
I
people drive
know, and you don't
there's
even think
snow.
about it. So I was like, oh yeah. So it's definitely fun. It was fun to meet people from all over, that were here for camps and stuff. And
And
and now it's fun.
I was gonna say,
Sorry.
I'll put that in the show notes so people can, especially if people can come from all over the country for it. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
no, it's awesome. And they have a gala. It's every year. It's in February, and it's around my birthday. So this last year we went, made it a whole girls' birthday weekend, and it was really fun. So it's fun to go in and see all these people that you've made, you just this was almost 9 years ago, 8 years ago that I went. So, and these are all still, you know, people that are a part of my life. And so it's pretty cool. So,
Yeah.
which
So I
was,
want to, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say that was part of the inspiration, sort of, you know, of starting my nonprofit, the Crown of Glory Project. I talked to Nancy a lot, you know, kind of as a mentor to kind of help me a little bit. And she connected me with some people to get started. So,
Okay. Well, I wanted to go back because something that you said that you actually lost some friends when you were diagnosed. Can you talk about that a little bit?
you know, it's just, I think that we all have our own things going on and we don't realize maybe at the time, um, what is going on in other people's lives. Cause I feel like then it becomes like very, I don't know, you just expect people to be there differently than they are.
Okay.
But again, they have their own stuff going on but with that said, I mean, I feel like I am richer and better for having cancer because I have, you know, I've got my epic family. I've got, you know, just so many people that I've met, you know, that I have become friends with, you know, through different camps and, you know, retreats and stuff. And so definitely but you know, richer and better for it's a thing. What did we say? It's a club with the best members or
Yeah.
something like
So the worst club with the best members, but yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's again, I think that it's a lot for people to deal with, you
Mhm.
know, when it's someone they care about and they don't know how to deal with it. And so I think sometimes they just withdraw, but then other people just come out of the woodwork too. So
Nature abhors a vacuum.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so let's kind of talk about how you got into how you started and got to the Crown and Glory Project.
So I lost all of my hair and now it's, you know, it's the longest it's been in 8 years. It's taken a long time. But yeah, just kind of started with my own grow out process because you know, even though I'd been doing hair for a couple of years, I had no idea like how to grow that out, what that would look like. Um, you know, and most people are like, oh, you just let it grow and, you know, just don't get it cut. And it's my business. Like I can't, you know, I can't go to work with a mullet. I mean, I could if that was my jam, but
Or wear a
um,
wig.
you know, yeah. And I mean, and I didn't. I rocked this fedora out of the $5 bin at Target the whole summer, you know, slouchy beanies, like stuff like that. There's a need for what do you do? Like, here's your drugs. Oh, by the way, your hair's gonna fall out. Don't know what to tell you. You know, and I've had, you know, a woman tell me how she just went into like, you know, Floyd's or wherever, you know, to get her to shave her head and was made to feel very uncomfortable because they were like, oh, we don't like nobody knew what to do. It's like, you know, it's such a emotional moment to shave your head, but then
Mhm.
when you're slap dab in the middle of a salon with, you know, 15 other chairs and all these people, you know, you just feel like the compassion isn't necessarily there from a hairstylist that hasn't experienced it or, you know, is new and doesn't, you know, just doesn't have that interaction and that social skill part of it. There's just so many things. And so that was
What was
part
your
of
experience when you went to have your head shaved? Did you have a good experience or?
so I had my friends do it that were
Okay.
stylists. So I mean I had an in, which is again why I started doing what I was doing because I could go to work and just be like, hey girl, can you when my hair is growing back in, hey, can you trim up my ears and my neck? Like that's the most, you know, the biggest parts of having a short haircut. And it's not that you want to have that short haircut, but if it looks intentional, rather than you just like are willy-nilly and let it just go, if it looks intentional, no, it may not be what we want, but make the best of what we have so that, hopefully that helps us feel a little bit better. And then people don't look at us, like, you don't feel like people are looking at you like you're sick. I mean, I had so many people come up to me when my hair was growing in and they're like, "Oh my God, I love your haircut." I'm like, "Thanks, I had cancer." And I I had to take a step back and just like take compliments from people because people would just I'm the homeless guy at Goodwill on Broadway like compliment. I was like, "Thank you." So I was like, but random people would and so, cancer taught me that too. Take a compliment. You don't need to People have to earn your story and you don't need to defend yourself, but I felt like I had to defend why my hair was short because I didn't choose it. And so by starting the Crown and Glory project and through, my own experience of taking ownership of something that we don't have control of very much, but if we can take control of what our hair, as best we can, it gives us a little bit of that feeling of, having control. So,
Do you experience people who, like, as their hair is starting to grow out, who may be like afraid to have it cut because it's finally just
everybody,
growing and you don't want
yeah,
to mess with it? Or
everybody is. I mean, they're like, "What do you mean you want me to cut it?" And I'm like, "I promise you, there is a method to the madness, and it's hard for a lot of people to like wrap their head around that. And I always just am like, just trust me and trust the process. Because like I said, I started doing that with my own hair. And then I made friends, I would meet people that were in treatment and I'm like, "Hey, let me cut your hair." And I started doing that, for people. I would just walk up to people at Walmart, or, in a restaurant, if I could tell someone was, and I always felt bad because the one thing that we don't want to do is look sick. We don't want people to know or come up, but but I knew because I obviously had been through it. So, you find your people.
right.
So yeah, I just
Anybody
started
walking
cutting
around with
it.
a bandana on or something like, hey.
Yes, yes, for sure.
Okay. So talk a little about, because your salon offers free haircuts for chemo patients. Were you doing that before you started the Crown and Glory project, or did those kind of come at the same time?
So I was just randomly cutting people's hair,
Okay.
and then when it started getting out there and, I all of my people at the infusion center, they all like, because I'd always walk in and be like, "Hey." So everyone, I stood out. So people knew that, I was starting to do this. So word just started getting around, in the cancer community and the cancer centers and stuff. So once it started becoming like a bigger thing, that's when I was like, all right, like let's, kind of start something. Because ideally, I'd like for it to be in other communities as well, because there's no services like this. I mean, there's a couple, here and there. Maybe there'll be a program at a hospital in like Ohio or something, but there's just not a lot of, there's just not the services that focus on the cancer community and help with not just the wigs, and that part of it, but, before, like I said, the lady went into a generic place or whatever and just felt really uncomfortable because they were just treating her like she was just like a dude getting her hair shaved and her head shaved when, it's a much more, so I mean, we've had people come in and like if I do two before chemo. So if their hair is really long, like mine was, we can cut it shorter or, kind of phase into before we're going to actually shave it. And then obviously shaving it. And then I do four post chemo.
Oh, wow.
Um, but you have to start it within 6 months of finishing chemo because everyone's hair grow, and most people will need a haircut prior to that 6 months. But if you like stretch it out as long as you can't, I was just finding that I don't like people would come, it's been a year and a half since they finished chemo and we're like, oh, now I want a free haircut or whatever. And as much as I want to help people, it's not the hair, I'm not trying to give away free haircuts just to give away free haircuts. It's the bigger picture of it and starting a foundation once it starts to grow in so that it's intentional and we can take control of, as best we can of what our hair is going to look like as it grows out instead of it just willy-nilly and, whatever, so.
And so I never had chemo. So I'm still kind of learning. Does the hair, I guess, start to grow back immediately after treatment? Does it depend on who you are and what your hair is like?
Everyone is different. I let mine grow in, so I kept mine kind of shaved down, with a one guard for a long time because I just wanted it to fill in. So once it filled in, then I started to let the length grow, but I didn't want to just let my 5 hairs grow long because then, then that's when someone comes in and I'm like, well, I really need to cut like 4 inches off, even though it's only 4 inches of like 25% of your hair. But you tell somebody that and they're going to, freak out.
I
And
can do
that
the
again,
comb over thing, right?
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, too, that's why there's a method to that, like, no later than 6 months after your last chemo. And then they have to be every 6 to 8 weeks because there's to keep it cleaned up and again make it look intentional. So there's just kind of that process of growing it out. And every time because if your hair grows a half an inch a month, and you're coming in and I'm just barely kissing the ends just to keep it cleaned up, a lot of times the chemo curl isn't going to be an issue as much because you're keeping that junk off, because like the hair that grows in, like at first is just, it looks like fried. It's just very frizzy and not like curly haired frizzy, but just kind of like, it just looks burnt and fried.
Okay.
So, again, keeping it cleaned up, and teaching people how to use products because nobody's ever had short hair, most people haven't. And so just teaching them the different phases, because I'm going to style it one way this time, but next time you come in, I'm going to show you something different because now it's going to be longer and now we've got to do something different, so it's just all the different phases of all of that. So
I just love all of this because this is something that, I mean, it's not really talked about. It's just, I mean, people
it's
talk
not,
about, because when you first say chemo, that's the first thing that everybody
is
thinks
my
of
hair
is
going to
I'm going
fall
to lose
out?
my hair. And you always hear about people losing their hair, but the actual growing back and the process and the emotion that comes
Yeah.
with all of that too. Because I mean, you got to look at yourself in the mirror every day and you want to look as stylish as you can, right?
If you look good, you feel good, right? Like if I wore fake eyelashes and I did my makeup. Like, I mean, and it was, well, one thing I did that was really awful, but right before my surgery, I just had skin cancer taken off my leg too. So maybe this is why, but so I went tanning for like a month. I went to the tanning bed as much as I could for 30 days before I had my surgery because I knew if I had a little color on myself, like I wouldn't, I can't do my hair. I couldn't do I couldn't do anything because I couldn't even wipe my butt, when I had my surgery. So I mean, I didn't know it was gonna be that bad, but I knew like doing my hair and my makeup was gonna be hard. So yeah, I mean, it's awful, but I went tanning for a month just so I knew I could look back at that and not be like, God, I look so sickly and like, like death.
Okay, first of all, there's nothing awful about that.
Well, I mean, again, I just had skin cancer
It's
taken off
what
my
you
leg.
need to do to,
Right.
and we talked about this last time, and I really want to stress this and even more as we get into like, the other services that you offer, but this isn't about vanity. Like
Right.
I feel like, especially with breast cancer and reproductive cancers, Like the treatments that are given are definitely life-saving, but it's like they strip away every bit of femininity that you have. Like, they
Right.
take your breasts, they put you on this stuff that puts you straight into menopause. You lose so much feeling of femininity, and it's really about getting that back. It's not just like, hey, I want to look pretty. It's about, hey, I want to be myself again, and I want to feel like a woman. I want to feel feminine, and hair is, and even tanning can be a big piece of that. And so,
Yeah.
and I'm sure that you've had people feel like, hey, I don't want to feel vain or anything, but it's not vanity. It's feeling like yourself again.
Yeah. No, I mean, I would say 75% of the people that sit in my chair say that. I don't want to be vain. And I'm like, no, it's not. That's not what it is. Sometimes I have to like lecture people about it because I'm like, just drop that. It's not, and my dad has kind of said that, not that it's vanity, but because it's expensive to do some of these other things, which I understand, but again, it's not vanity. It's like you said, it's just wanting to feel and look like yourself as much as we can, and so yeah, everybody says it. Everybody says it.
And then now, as the hair is growing back, you also offer in your salon another service for women as the hair is starting to grow back. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So, in 2000, thank you, PPP. I in COVID, got a
In
silver lining.
2020, not 2000.
Yeah. Did I say 2000? Yeah,
Yeah.
2020. Oh,
Okay.
no, not 2000. Woo! Yeah, so in 2020, I went to Minnesota and I don't know, I had to say Minnesota. But I learned how to they're called chemo girl extensions. And so I need 2 inches of hair and I put extensions on, basically your whole head. Um, so I can take someone from 2 inches to 18 inches or 22. They come in 22 inches too. Um, it is a very tedious process. It takes, I mean, I usually schedule 2 days for it because it's a long process. But when you take someone from this to, there are almost no words for it. I had a client a couple months ago tell me that she's metastatic, but her scans are all looking really, really good. Um, but she's from Gillette, Wyoming, and came down and she said, once I did hers, she's like, I didn't think I was going to live long enough to have long hair again.
Ugh.
And those are the things that people say, and it's just like, oh,
You do a lot of
so
crying.
a lot, yes. And it's funny because with some clients more than others, like, because I obviously share my story, with them and they share theirs. And there's some that we just have this connection. And so sometimes there's more crying than normal. Like, it's just kind of depends on the day, I guess, and we just have those connections with people. So and doing that has really brought a lot of really beautiful people into my world as well. I love doing it. It's a little, it's very time consuming. It's hard. My arthritis is getting a little rough in my thumb. This thumb does a lot of work. um And then 2 years ago, yeah, I guess it's been 2 years. I started doing toppers and wigs and working in that realm a lot. And so really I'm trying to kind of just pivot and focus everything, kind of catered towards the cancer community and really focusing on that because like I said earlier, there's a need. There's very few wig shops in town. And again, my own personal experiences, I think, I want to really make it as special as I can and make people feel, like make it fun, instead of, I mean, I feed off of whatever their energy is, but, I want to try to make it as less daunting as I can, you know. Um, and my salon is in a Victorian style house, just off of Main Street in Parker. So it's very boutiquey, you know, my little, you know, room. And I feel like that kind of adds to, you know, it's very private. Again, you're not out in the middle of a room, you know, middle of the salon with, you know, people, you know, getting fitted for a wig. I measure, you know, it's just not, I don't keep a whole inventory. I measure you. We go through options, you know, it's a very customized, you know, consultation. So I mean, I'm there from the beginning to the end, essentially. I mean, I can shave your head, I can do your extent, you know, get you a wig and then do your extensions once it's growing in, you know. So I'm a one-stop shop. I've got it all. So but
That's
yeah, just really focusing on just all the aspects and all the options for women post chemo, well, pre and post.
And that is really one of my favorite things about doing this podcast is just seeing how people have taken what they've gone through and have been able to use it to help others. Because this is something that you never would have thought of had you not
Mm.
gone through this yourself. And I'm hoping that maybe, I don't know, maybe people will listen to this and there'll be hairdressers out there who'll be like, hey, this is something that is needed in my community. Okay. All right. So I asked this of all of my guests. So what is one piece of advice that you would give to someone who is maybe just starting on this cancer journey, you know, something that you've really learned through your process that could help somebody who's kind of just getting started on this whole journey and not really sure what to do or where to go?
What did I say last time? Because I can't remember.
I don't remember. So you got to do it again.
Oh, dang. Piece of advice. I mean, do do your due diligence, you know, and be your own advocate because too many times, I mean, I changed to my oncologist now. And when I got all of my records to take over there, I was reading, you know, my 3 inch thick folder. And every single one of my chemo day notes said that my cancer was on my left side, and it was not, it was on my right side. So my medical records were wrong.
Oh my gosh.
Um, so I mean, could have been something much worse, but I think, you know, be your own advocate, know your numbers. Don't just pull the blinders over and just go through the motions because um that's how people die. I mean, I don't want that to sound like awful, but you know, the people that I personally have lost, I mean, things happen and I get it, but I think that people that I personal in my life that I've lost to cancer after my own cancer stuff, I, again, things happen and I don't know, but they both were just had no idea, didn't know what their numbers were, didn't, you know, just weren't really being advocates for themselves, and it was really frustrating. And you know, fortunately they're not here anymore, so but just be an advocate for yourself.
And that it was something that you said earlier too, that bring somebody with you to your appointments because you are just in this fog and you're not going to hear what people say anyway. So having
Yeah.
somebody to take notes and ask questions and stuff that they can relay to you later when you're in a better space.
Yeah. And just yeah, and they might think of things differently than, you know, and take the right person. It doesn't, you know, just because your mom wants to go doesn't mean your mom needs to go. Like,
Yes.
take the right people with you, you know. So
Somebody's going to be there to support you and ask
yeah,
questions and relay information. Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. So if people want to get a hold of you to find out more information about what you do, how can they get a hold of you?
My website. Oh, I feel like, you know, at the end of a podcast, they're like, well,
Exactly.
my website is. I'm like,
Absolutely.
oh. My website is Magnolia Salon Co. .com.
Okay.
Magnolia Salon. Like I said, I'm in Parker, Colorado. Um, Magnolia's on Facebook, um, Instagram. I'm not really on Instagram anymore. I mean, I'm on there, but there's too many things.
Yes, there.
There's too many things to keep all of it. I'm like, I can barely keep up with what I got going on as it is.
Right. And can people
So
contact you through your website? Is like contact you through Facebook? Like, what's the best way to contact you if they have
yeah,
questions?
typically, yeah, keep calling me or a text.
Okay.
Um, messages on, I feel like there's a graveyard of messages on like the business side of Facebook. I don't know what happens, but they just can't, they just disappear. So I'm like, I
Gotcha.
don't know where they
Yeah.
went. And I'm not even that old and I can't figure it out. So
All right. So contact you through your website, call or text is the
yeah,
best way. Okay.
yeah,
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing this again. And thank you
yeah,
for
for
being
sure.
on the show. This is really information that people need to know going through this process, that there is a way to look good and feel good about yourself, even going through all of this crap.
Yeah. It was our grandmas were always like lipstick. No, eyelashes and eyebrows and you're good. That's all
And
you need.
hair. Yeah.
I mean, but even if you don't, I mean, that's the
Oh,
thing.
okay. Right.
If
The
you've got
during.
your eyelashes and if you are able to do that, at least you can fake the other stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not lipstick anymore, grandma. It's eyelashes and eyebrows.
This is an eyebrows. All right. All right. Well, thank you so much for
Awesome.
joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
have a good rest of your day.
You too. Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye.